And it would be hard to disagree with that. Dave Revson, Ashley Adamson back with you. And I think Dave Urban's point about the blueprint at Oregon was well made. And to me, in terms of how they want to play, if you boil it down to one word, it's physicality. Like that is always Dan Lanning's goal, is to be the more physical team. And as you look at their game against Wisconsin this weekend, it's interesting because physicality and toughness is exactly what Luke Fickell talked about in his press conference this week. And he said, look, we had to take a really hard look in the mirror during the bye week and ask those questions. Are we physical enough? Are we tough enough? Because as we saw, when you give up 330 rushing yards, which is what they gave up to Iowa in their last game, those are the questions that you probably need to answer. So I know, Dave, you said that you expect Oregon to be able to take care of business, but what interests you, intrigues you in this matchup on Saturday at Camp Randall?
I do think that Wisconsin will be a highly motivated team. I mean, Luke Fickell described what happened against Iowa as kind of your worst nightmare. And I get that. Like, Luke Fickell is a fabulous coach. I have the utmost respect for him. We obviously date back to his time at Ohio State, saw him have incredible success at Cincinnati. Like, I do believe that Luke Fickell is going to figure this thing out at Wisconsin, and I think he's going to have his team ready to go. Again, I just think Oregon is better, and that's the stuff that Urban was diagnosing there, which is just how well this team plays, how connected they are. I just think the way that Dan Lanning has brought that defensive toughness, the notion of hiring a defensive coach, and he's not the first one they've hired, obviously, at Oregon. They've had a couple guys with defensive backgrounds. But the idea of leaning into the thing that I think people don't think of historically as the strength for Oregon. I think historically of offense and how innovative they've been offensively. And so to kind of lean into this defensive blueprint while maintaining the strong offense, I mean, this is what gets you on the pace they're at. And the fact that they've got the longest streak of scoring 30 or more points in the country going, 9 straight games. So when you pair a historically good defense, or on pace to be their best scoring defense ever, a fraction of a point ahead of last year's defense, and you pair that with this offense, it's a tough combination to beat. In fact, it's been impossible to beat so far.
Yeah. And I think one of the other things, it's so easy to get caught up in sort of the, I don't want to say the minutia, but the X's and O's. But this was like pulling back and looking from the 30,000 foot view. This was one of the games that caught my eye when the schedule first came out months ago. Of course, obviously, it would feel bigger if the Badgers had a better record, but that doesn't take away from the fact that Oregon, Wisconsin, like it feels like we're previewing a Rose Bowl right now, which I love. And obviously, their last 2 meetings did come in the Rose Bowl. Both were classic games, I think especially enjoyable if you were an Oregon fan. And I remember how special, especially that 2020 Rose Bowl was for the Ducks. Justin Herbert, it was his last game as an Oregon Duck. He caps his, incredible Oregon career with 3 rushing touchdowns and MVP performance. And it really was sort of that storybook ending to, what is one of the most beloved Ducks in program history. I certainly, Dave, didn't think that the next time that they would be playing each other would be as conference foes in Madison 5 years later. But here we are, and I think it's terrific. It's going to be a great atmosphere. And Oregon, of course, will get the Badgers' best shot, and I am sure that they will be ready for it. So looking forward to that one. And I just think, again, when you step back and you think about what this season and each week, just some of the different matchups that we play, it's special.
I agree with you. I think this is going to be, again, atmosphere-wise, I think there's going to be a ton of enthusiasm, as there always is, surrounding the Badgers. Look, if they can avoid the turnovers, part of the issue has been, Braden Locke's turned the ball over in every game he started. Can you avoid the turnovers? Can you maybe figure out a way to control the ball a little bit better than they have? But to your point, Ash, it's just weird to think about the way they were run over in particular in that last game. I know there's people fixate on offense, and I think I'm as guilty of it as anyone, and particularly when you look at Wisconsin and kind of what they've done to overhaul the offensive philosophy and go into the air raid with Phil Longo. But the real identity of Wisconsin, it has been great running games through the years, I get that, but it's also been outstanding defense, and the defense just isn't up to the level that they need it to be either. So they're going to have to improve dramatically on both sides of the ball from what we saw last time for them to have a fighting chance here against the Ducks.
They sure are. And Luke Fickle is 7-2 all time coming off the bye. So looking forward to how that one plays out. Looking forward to the rest of the show. Plenty more football ahead,